Ed Morrissey, I swear to you, when this story first started breaking, I thought, this is there's no way the paper is apologizing to triggered snowflakes on the campus of Northwestern who were re-traumatized by the paper's coverage of the protests of Jeff Sessions' speech. Ed, what am I missing here? Did Jeff Sessions go around letting the air out of people's tires or start, injuring people or pulling the wings off flies? What am I not getting here?
What you're not getting here is that speech is violence, Mike, which means that you and I are in the violence business.
Conservative speech. Conservative speech is violent.
I mean, okay, so today it's conservative speech that's violent, and then it's going to be moderate speech that's violent, and then it's anything that doesn't support the proletariat movement is going to be violent. I mean, this is we talk about slippery slopes all the time. I mean, we're halfway down the slippery slope already with this. This is absurd. I've never heard anybody apologize for journalism.
No kidding. No kidding.
And in such craven tones. I mean, they're apologizing literally for looking somebody up in a public student directory in order to contact them. I'm curious as to how reporters are supposed to find people to contact.
All right. Well, now you're getting into some details that I want to make sure everybody's aware of. So walk us through what actually happened that has led to this meltdown by the editors at the Caller newspaper, or no, the Daily. I mean, the Daily paper, whatever it's called. The Daily Northwestern. Daily Northwestern. Walk us through the steps. Why are these snowflakes so upset at the paper?
Well, first off, Jeff Sessions, as you mentioned, showed up to give a speech. This is not an unusual event at major universities. They often invite people, sometimes because they have dissenting points of view from the norm on those campuses, and sometimes just because they're interesting people. And I would say Jeff Sessions probably qualifies for both.
Sure.
And so there was a protest at this university over Jeff Sessions speaking, which is also a fairly normal thing to do. It's a public protest. You have, these days especially. And so it's a public protest. People were out there protesting, and they sent a reporter around and a photographer. It may have been the same person, may have been two different people, but they sent them over there to take pictures of the protest, which was happening in public, and then to get comments and responses from the people who were protesting.
Right.
They asked somebody their name. The person gave them their name, and they identified that person in the report. They published the photographs. You just mentioned this. They published the photographs which showed the students at this protest.
Right.
This is what you and I would call news, although honestly these days it's barely news that somebody's protesting a speaker on campus.
Right.
And everybody apparently lost their freaking minds, Mike.
Because the protesters were identified?
Because they identified the protester who gave their name to the reporter in order to be identified, and also because they were showing the pictures of the students who were there, because those students are from marginalized communities and are at risk. And the Daily Northwestern risked their safety by publishing their pictures. And I'm curious as to what they think their job actually is. I
don't know what they think they're supposed to do as a paper. And here's their apology. The Daily failed to consider our impact in our reporting surrounding Jeff Sessions. We know we hurt students that night. How did they hurt students? By covering the protest?
I think that the Daily Northwestern doesn't really have to worry about the impact that they're reporting, Mike, because based on this apology, it has absolutely no impact now, and it's going to have even less impact in the future. If they think that journalism is just standing around and waiting for people to hand them statements anonymously, these guys, I take that back. These guys have a great future in modern American media. They're going to be right up there with the ABC execs who thought that they wanted to kill the Epstein story, and then the CBS execs who fired the person who accessed the Amy Robach tape that described how they killed this story.
Ed, it's one of the most important and underreported phenomenon of our time. The way college campuses have become absolute, it's ground zero for only one point of view. Any kind of conservative ideology it's just simply not permitted. And it's kind of shrewd. It's a little bit cunning the tactic that they're using. Because the tactic, as you said, is, well, it's called conservative speech is hate speech, therefore it's not allowed to happen. And we're going to shut it down. Now, you gotta. It's a real stretch to say that, but you know what, Ed? You got to give them a little bit of credit because of the ingenuity of trying to figure out a way to stifle and censor a point of view that that the far left doesn't want heard.
I'm not even going to give them that much credit, Mike. First off, this has been going on for some time. This is just the most egregious example of this,
right?
And it's not working because campuses don't exist in bubbles. There's bubbles on campuses, but the bubble is part of the outside world,
right?
And people find out about this stuff, and then you get. I mean, I don't know if you've read the comments.
Oh, the backlash has been incredible, comical. I mean, it's true, Ed. It's like, are you kidding? I thought it was satire. I thought there's no way a college paper is apologizing for re-traumatizing Jeff Sessions protesters who were there protesting.
Whose whole point was to be public, right? I mean, the whole point of the protest is to be public. I swear, I think that the guy who gave him his name, the source that they quoted, which put him in danger, I'm absolutely certain that this guy knew exactly what he was doing. He wanted his name in the paper. He wanted to see his name in the paper. Now they're taking that away from the poor guy.
I used to say years ago that there was a protester in a tree in the middle of the forest somewhere, and the poor person got tired and hungry and fell out of the tree and died and laid there for weeks because nobody knew he was there. And I said, my point is, if you're going to be a protest, you got to go where the people are. You got to protest where there's some people because you want to be noticed. That's why you're protesting. You can't be up in a tree in the middle of nowhere to protest, logging or whatever, because you got to have people see your protest. That's the point of a protest, is public. Ed Morrissey's with us. He's the senior editor at hotair.com. To me, Ed, there's also a very big picture concern, and I'm serious about this. How are these little snowflakes, these little traumatized, marginalized, far leftists who only see the world one way and they never hear a point of view other than their own, they're sheltered, they're shielded, they're protected from anything that is any kind of even a minor conflict in their precious little snowflake lives. Ed, how are they going to navigate the real world when they graduate from Northwestern?
Badly.
Badly.
They're going to navigate badly because they're being set up in this cocoon of childhood that is now extending into the mid-20s here. And then when they get out, they find out that the world doesn't work the way that they want it to work.
Right.
They'll sit around and pout and throw tantrums.
These are adults, but you're right. These are young adults. This is these Antifa people and all that, these are people in their 20s, 30s. These are not little 13-year-olds. They're behaving like 13-year-olds, but they're not.
They're cases of arrested development. They're all cases of arrested development. I mean, the people who signed their names to this editorial are people who shouldn't even really run a kindergarten class.
No way. They sure shouldn't run a paper.
Maybe they should be in one. What they really need is a blanket, a carton of milk, and a nap.
Wow.
I mean, honestly, when you read this, this is what comes across in loud, screaming type: is that these people are children. They have no idea what it is that they're doing. They have no idea what the concept is of free speech and the purpose of journalism. They're in journalism school at the Metal School of Journalism at Northwestern. They have no idea what journalism is.
Well,
and they're the editors.
And they're the editors. They're making the decisions. They're making the editorial decisions, and it's not far from what we're seeing in the media today, Ed. I mean, it's the Trump era has ushered in advocacy journalism. We're not going to be fair, they say. We're not going to be objective. We're not going to present every side. We're going to try to stop this president. And it's a stunning thing to behold. Keep fighting the good fight, Ed. And by the way, Epstein didn't kill himself. I'm glad you called. I'm glad you joined. Did you hear the kid? Did you hear the kid on MSNBC who did that yesterday? I mean, this is becoming the new buzz phrase. I'm going to start asking callers. I want every caller to end their call with Epstein didn't kill himself. People are like getting this into the zeitgeist, and it's obviously dark subject matter, Ed, but it's pretty funny.
Well, the Epstein ABC story didn't kill itself. I'll just say that much.
That's true. The Epstein, that's exactly right. Bingo. That's why you are as good as what you do. Thanks, Ed. Appreciate you joining us. I want to play this. We're going to play this. This is clip number 1. There's an Alabama student Parker Savage being interviewed. I don't even know what the content was, but it was definitely not about Jeffrey Epstein. Everybody's squeezing this in now to interviews. Listen to cut number 1 from MSNBC.
You told me you voted for the president in 2016. You're supporters of his. Why do you like him so much, and what policies stand out to you that you support?
Well, I would say mainly just the no-nonsense policies, and especially since Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself.
Okay.
It's awesome, yeah. It's totally perfect. Can't wait to see it.
Turning back to Alabama.
Turning back to Alabama football, please. All righty then. This is like the equivalent of Baba Booey. You know, Howard Stern, who is this legendary broadcaster, he's got a producer named Gary Delabate, and his nickname is Baba Booey. And over the years, people will call into shows and they'll say, "Hello, Mike, I'd like to talk about Baba Booey, and then they hang up. And then, of course, Stern gets a tape of that, and then they plays the Baba Booey call on his show, and they all laugh and make fun of it. Well, that's what this has become. Epstein didn't kill himself. So now, if you want to end every call or inject every call with Epstein didn't kill himself, I'm not going to object. I think we got to have a little bit of fun with this. Because if you don't laugh, you'll cry.